The year was 2347. The human colony on Vega Prime was a quiet place. Green fields stretched for miles under a pale blue sky. Farmers worked the land. Children played in the streets. Families sat together for dinner every evening. Nearly 40,000 people called this world home. Sergeant First Class Jack Holloway stood at his post near the eastern gate. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and tired eyes. His brown hair was cut short in military style. He had been a soldier for 15 years. He had seen battle on 6 different worlds. But this posting was supposed to be easy. A quiet place. A chance to rest. He watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. The twin moons of Vega Prime were already rising in the east. It was beautiful. Peaceful. The kind of evening that made a man forget. There was a war happening somewhere far away. Jack took a sip from his water bottle. His rifle hung loose on its strap. There was nothing to fear here. The Cathari, the enemy, were fighting the coalition forces near the outer rim. That was thousands of light years away. Vega Prime was safe. Everyone said so. That was the last peaceful moment Jack would know for a very long time. The first explosion came without warning. A ball of fire rose from the center of the colony. The ground shook under Jack's feet. He dropped his water bottle and grabbed his rifle. "What the hell?" he said out loud. Then the sky split open. Ships came through the clouds. Dozens of them. They were black and shaped like insects. Their hulls were covered in sharp edges and strange markings. Jack knew those ships. Every human soldier knew them. The Cathari had come to Vega Prime. Alarms screamed across the colony. Red lights flashed on every building. People ran out of their homes, looking up at the sky with fear in their eyes. "Get to the shelters," Jack shouted. "Everyone move, now." But there was no time. The enemy ships opened fire. Beams of green light cut through buildings like they were made of paper. More explosions. More fire. The screaming started and it did not stop. Jack ran toward the command center. He had to find his unit. He had to get orders. But when he reached the building, there was nothing left but a smoking hole in the ground. His radio crackled with static. Broken voices. Cries for help. Then silence. He was alone. The Cathari ground forces came next. They dropped from the ships in pods that crashed into the streets. The pods opened and the soldiers poured out. Jack had fought the Cathari before. They were tall, over 7 feet. Their bodies were covered in hard black shells like armor. They had 4 arms and 2 legs. Their heads were long and narrow with large red eyes that saw in the dark. They did not talk. They did not negotiate. They only killed. Jack raised his rifle and fired. One of the aliens fell. Then another. But there were too many. He had to move. He ran through the burning streets. Bodies lay everywhere. Human bodies. Men, women, and children. Some were soldiers. Most were not. The Cathari did not care. To them, all humans were the enemy. Jack found 3 members of his platoon hiding behind an overturned truck. Corporal Danny Webb, Private First Class Maria Santos, Private Eddie Cole. They were scared but alive. "Sarge, what do we do?" Danny asked. His face was covered in ash and blood. "We regroup," Jack said. "Extraction point Delta, 3 kilometers east. That's where command will set up." "What about the civilians?" Maria asked. Jack looked around at the chaos. People were running in every direction. Some were trying to fight back with whatever they could find. Most were just trying to hide. "We get to Delta first," Jack said. "Then we come back for them." It was the correct answer. It was what the training manual said. But the words felt wrong in his mouth. They moved out. The 4 soldiers ran through the colony, staying low, avoiding the main streets. The Cathari were everywhere. Their strange clicking sounds filled the air. They were hunting. Jack and his team made it 2 blocks before they hit a patrol. 6 Cathari soldiers standing at a crossroads. Down. Jack hissed. They pressed themselves against the wall. Jack peered around the corner. The aliens were searching a building, dragging people out, lining them up. What happened next would stay with Jack forever. The Cathari raised their weapons and fired. The people fell. Old men, young women, a boy who could not have been more than 10 years old. They all fell. Eddie made a sound. A small cry of horror. One of the Cathari turned its head. Its red eyes swept toward their hiding spot. "Run," Jack said. "Run now." They ran. The aliens chased them. Weapons fire exploded around them. Eddie went down with a scream. Maria turned back to help him, but Jack grabbed her arm. "He's gone. Move." They ran until they could not run anymore. Jack and Danny and Maria, 3 soldiers out of a company of 200. They hid in the basement of a destroyed school and tried to catch their breath. The radio crackled again. A voice came through. Weak but clear. "All units, extraction point Delta is active. Repeat, Delta is active. All surviving personnel report immediately. Air support incoming in 6 hours. This is our only window. 6 hours." They had to survive for 6 hours. "We can make it," Danny said. "It's not that far." Jack nodded. They would make it. They had to. But then he heard something. A small sound. Easy to miss. But Jack had good ears. It was a child crying. He held up his hand. Danny and Maria went quiet. The sound came from above them. From somewhere in the ruined building. A soft, broken sobbing. The kind of crying that happens when you have been crying for hours and you have no tears left, but you cannot stop. "Sarge," Danny said. "We have to go." Jack knew that. He knew the mission. He knew the orders. He knew that every minute they stayed here was a minute closer to death. But that was a child up there, alone, scared, probably hurt. He looked at his team, at Danny and Maria. They were waiting for him to make the call. Jack Holloway had been a soldier for 15 years. He had followed orders his whole career. He had done his duty. He had been a good Marine, but he was also a human being. "Wait here," he said. "Sarge, no, that's an order. Wait here." Jack climbed the broken stairs. The crying got louder. He moved through a collapsed hallway, pushed aside fallen beams. And there, in the corner of what used to be a classroom, he found her, a little girl, maybe 7 years old. Blonde hair covered in dust, blue eyes red from crying. She was holding a stuffed rabbit that was missing one ear. She looked up at Jack with pure terror in her eyes. "Please," she whispered. "Please don't hurt me." Jack lowered his weapon. He knelt down so he was at her level. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly. "I'm a soldier. I'm here to help. What's your name?" The girl stared at him for a long moment. Then she spoke. "Lily. My name is Lily." Jack held out his hand. "Hi, Lily. I'm Jack. I'm going to get you out of here." "Okay." Lily looked at his hand, then at his face. Then, slowly, she reached out and took a. In that moment, without knowing it, Jack Holloway made a choice that would change both their lives forever. The night passed slowly. Jack lay in his quarters and stared at the ceiling. He held Mr. Buttons against his chest. The stuffed rabbit smelled like dust and smoke and something else. Something that reminded him of Lily. Of innocence, of hope. He did not sleep. When morning came, he put on his dress uniform. He looked at himself in the mirror. The same face he had seen for 40 years, the same eyes. But something was different now. Something had changed. He was ready. The courtroom was even more crowded than before. Word had spread about what happened, about the little girl who stood up and spoke. Every seat was taken. People stood along the walls. Journalists filled every corner. Jack walked to the defendant's table. Torres was already there. She looked tired but hopeful. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "I don't know," Jack said honestly. "Ask me again in an hour." The Brennan family was in the same seats as yesterday. Lily waved at Jack when she saw him. He waved back. Then Admiral Monroe entered. "All rise." Everyone stood. The Admiral took her seat. The other tribunal members took theirs. "Be seated." The room sat down. The silence was thick enough to touch. Admiral Monroe looked out at the crowded courtroom. Her face was impossible to read. This tribunal has spent the night reviewing all evidence and testimony in the case of Sergeant First Class Jack Holloway. We have considered the charges. We have considered the defense. And we have considered the statement given yesterday by Miss Lily Brennan. She paused. The silence stretched. "Before I deliver our verdict, I want to say something. Not as a judge. As a soldier." She stood up. It was unusual. Judges did not usually stand to give verdicts. "I have served in the military for 43 years. I have commanded ships. I have led troops into battle. I have made decisions that cost lives. I understand duty. I understand orders. I understand why we have rules." Her eyes moved across the room. "But I also understand why we fight. We don't fight for territory. We don't fight for resources. We don't fight for glory. We fight because somewhere out there, in the darkness of space, there are people who need protecting. Families, children, innocent lives that cannot protect themselves." She looked directly at Jack. "Sergeant Holloway, you stand accused of abandoning your post, of breaking orders, of putting personal judgment above military discipline. By the strict letter of military law, you are guilty of these charges." Jack's heart sank. He heard Torres inhale sharply beside him, but Admiral Monroe was not finished. "However, this tribunal does not exist to enforce the letter of the law without thought. We exist to serve justice, and justice must consider not only what was done, but why it was done." She picked up a piece of paper from her desk. "You made a choice, Sergeant, an impossible choice. You could have followed orders. You could have gone to Extraction Point Delta. You could have done your duty as it was written in the books." She set the paper down. "Instead, you chose to save a child who was alone and terrified, a child who would have died without you. You carried her through fire and darkness. You protected her with your own body. You sacrificed your career, your freedom, possibly your life, to keep her safe." Her voice grew stronger. "That is not abandonment. That is not cowardice. That is the very definition of what it means to be a soldier, what it means to be human." A murmur went through the crowd. Admiral Monroe raised her hand for silence. "The tragedy of Extraction Point Delta cannot be undone. 8 soldiers died that day. Their sacrifice will not be forgotten. Their names will be honored forever." She looked at the families of the fallen in the gallery. Some of them were crying. But their deaths were not caused by Sergeant Holloway. They were caused by the enemy, by the Cathari who attacked our colony, by the chaos of war that no single soldier could have prevented. She turned back to Jack. "Sergeant First Class Jack Holloway, this tribunal finds you not guilty on all charges." The room exploded. People cheered. People cried. The journalists scrambled for their cameras. Even some of the military officers were applauding. But Jack did not hear any of it. He was frozen in his chair. Not guilty. He was free. Torres grabbed his arm. "You did it," she said. "We did it." But Admiral Monroe was not finished. She raised her hand again. The room slowly went quiet. "Furthermore, This tribunal recommends Sergeant Holloway for the Silver Star for extraordinary valor in the face of enemy action. His actions on Vega Prime represent the highest traditions of military service. More cheering. More tears. Then Admiral Monroe stepped down from her bench. She walked across the courtroom floor. She stopped in front of Jack. "Stand up, Sergeant." Jack stood. His legs were shaking. Admiral Monroe saluted him. A full military salute from a senior officer. "It has been my honor to serve in the same military as men like you," she said. "Humanity is lucky to have soldiers who remember what we're really fighting for." Jack returned the salute. His hand was trembling. "Thank you, ma'am." Admiral Monroe lowered her hand. "Now go see that little girl. I believe she has something of yours." She gestured toward the gallery. Lily had broken free from her parents and was running toward Jack. She crashed into him at full speed, wrapping her small arms around his waist. Jack knelt down and hugged her back. He held her tight. The stuffed rabbit was pressed between them. "You're free," Lily said into his shoulder. "You're free because of me." Jack pulled back and looked at her face. Those blue eyes. Still haunted, but also bright now, hopeful. "You saved me, Lily. You saved me twice." She smiled. "Then we're even." The Brennans approached. Margaret was crying again, but this time they were happy tears. Kevin shook Jack's hand with both of his. "We can never repay you," Kevin said. "But we want you to know that you'll always be family to us. Always." Jack did not know what to say. So he just nodded. The crowd began to surround them. Journalists shouting questions. Officers offering congratulations. Complete strangers wanting to shake his hand. But Jack barely noticed any of it. He was looking at Lily, at the girl he had carried through hell, at the girl who had stood up in a courtroom full of adults and spoken the truth. She had saved him, just as he had saved her. That was what humans did. They saved each other, no matter the cost, no matter the risk. They reached into the darkness and pulled each other out. Outside the courthouse, the news was already spreading across the colonies. The story of the soldier and the little girl. The story of impossible choices and unbreakable bonds. The story of what humanity really meant. In the weeks that followed, the war against the Cathari took a new turn. Human soldiers fought harder than ever. They remembered the story. They remembered that they were fighting for something more than victory. They were fighting for each other. And on a dozen different worlds, in 100 different battles, soldiers made impossible choices. They risked everything to save lives, to protect the innocent, to be human. Jack Holloway returned to active duty. He was promoted to Master Sergeant. He served for 10 more years before retiring with full honors. He never forgot the soldiers who died at Delta. He visited their families. He told them he was sorry. Some of them forgave him. Some did not. He understood both. Lily Brennan grew up to be a doctor. She worked in war zones, helping refugees and survivors. She saved thousands of lives. When people asked why she did it, she always told them the same story. A story about a soldier who found her in the ruins, who carried her through fire, who never let go. She still had Mr. Buttons. She kept him on her desk. A reminder of the darkest time in her life. And the man who brought her through it? Years later, when Jack was old and gray, Lily came to visit him. She brought her own daughter with her. A little girl with blonde hair and blue eyes. "This is Jack," Lily told her daughter. "He's the bravest man I ever knew." Jack looked at the little girl. She looked back at him with curious eyes. "What did he do?" she asked. Lily smiled. She took Jack's weathered hand in hers. "He saved me," she said. "And then I saved him. That's what humans do. We save each other." The little girl thought about this. Then she smiled. "I want to save people too," she said. Jack felt tears in his eyes. "Happy tears, the best kind." "You will," he said. "You will." Outside, the sun was setting. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, just like it had been on Vega Prime all those years ago. But this time, the sunset was not an ending. It was a beginning. The story of Jack and Lily had become legend, a reminder that in the cold darkness of space, among the stars and the wars and the endless struggle for survival, humanity had something that no other species understood. They had each other, and that made them unbreakable. Jack carried Lily down the broken stairs. She was light in his arms. Too light. He could feel her heart beating fast like a scared bird. Danny and Maria were waiting in the basement. Their eyes went wide when they saw the girl. "Sarge, what are you doing?" Danny asked. "I found her upstairs. She was alone." "We can't take a kid with us," Maria said. Her voice was not cruel, just worried. "She'll slow us down." "She's coming with us," Jack said. His voice left no room for argument. Lily pressed her face against Jack's chest. She was still holding her stuffed rabbit. She had not said a word since telling him her name. "Where are your parents, Lily?" Jack asked gently. Lily shook her head. "I don't know. We were at the market. Then the fire came. Mommy told me to run. I ran and ran. Then I hid. I couldn't find them." Her voice broke on the last words. Jack felt something twist in his chest. "We'll find them," he said. "But first, we have to get somewhere safe. Can you be brave for me?" Lily looked up at him. Her blue eyes were full of fear, but she nodded. "Good girl." They moved out into the night. The colony was still burning. The sky was orange with flames and black with smoke. The sounds of battle echoed from every direction. Explosions, weapons fire, screaming. Jack kept Lily close. He had given his pistol to Maria. Now he held his rifle in one hand and the little girl in the other. "Delta is east," Danny said. "If we cut through the industrial sector, we can avoid most of the patrols." It was a good plan. Jack nodded. They moved through the shadows. The industrial sector was mostly destroyed. Large buildings lay in ruins. Machines burned. But there were fewer aliens here. The Cathari were focused on the residential areas. On the people, they made good progress for the first hour. Then they hit a wall. A Cathari patrol blocked the only route forward. 20 soldiers. Maybe more. They were setting up some kind of device in the middle of the street. Jack did not know what it was, but he knew it could not be good. "We can't go around," Maria whispered. "The buildings on both sides are collapsed." "We wait," Danny said. "Maybe they'll move." But Jack was looking at Lily. The girl was shaking. She had not eaten in at least a day. Maybe 2. Her lips were dry. She needed water. How long until extraction? Jack asked. Danny checked his watch. 4 hours. 4 hours. They could wait. They should wait. Then Lily made a small sound. A whimper. She was trying so hard to be brave, but she was just a child. 7 years old. Alone in a nightmare. Jack made his decision. "We go back," he said. "Find another route." "Sarge, that'll add 2 hours to our time. We might not make it. Then we move fast." They turned back, found a different path. This one took them through the refugee camps, or what was left of them. Bodies everywhere. Jack tried to cover Lily's eyes, but she had already seen too much. She buried her face in his shoulder and cried silently. The new route was longer and more dangerous. They ran into 3 more patrols. Each time, they had to hide. Wait. Prayed out. By the time they reached the outskirts of the industrial sector, 2 hours had passed. They were exhausted, low on ammunition, and still far from Delta. The radio crackled. "All units, this is Delta Command. Enemy forces are closing on our position. Air support delayed. New extraction time is 2 hours. Repeat, 2 hours. All personnel report immediately. Danny's face went pale. We're not going to make it. We'll make it, Jack said. But deep down, he was not sure. They pushed forward. Faster now. Taking risks they should not take. Jack's legs burned. His arms ached from carrying Lily, but he did not put her down. He could not. Then disaster struck. They came around a corner and walked straight into a Kethari squad. 4 aliens, close. Too close to run. Jack reacted on instinct. He pushed Lily behind a fallen wall and raised his rifle. He killed the first one with a shot to the head. The second one fell a moment later. But the third one was fast. It lunged at him with a blade in each of its 4 hands. Jack dodged, fired, missed. The alien swung at him. The blade cut across his arm. Blood sprayed. Maria screamed and opened fire. The alien turned toward her. That was its mistake. Jack put 3 rounds in its back. The 4th alien grabbed Danny, lifted him off his feet. Danny's rifle fell from his hands. Danny! Maria shouted. Jack moved. He dropped his rifle and pulled his knife. He jumped onto the alien's back and drove the blade into the soft spot between its head and body. The Kethari made a horrible sound and fell. Danny fell with it. He was not moving. Danny! Jack knelt beside him. Danny, talk to me. Danny's eyes were open, but they were not seeing. Blood was coming from his mouth. The alien had crushed something inside him. Sarge, Danny whispered. Tell my mom. Tell her. He did not finish. His eyes went empty. Danny Webb, age 23, was gone. Maria was crying. Jack wanted to cry too. But there was no time. Lily was watching from behind the wall. Her face was white with shock. We have to move, Jack said. His voice was hollow. We can't just leave him. We don't have a choice. Maria, look at me. We don't have a choice. Maria wiped her eyes. She nodded. They took Danny's ammunition and his dog tags. Then they moved on. 1 hour left. They ran. Jack's wounded arm was screaming with pain, but he ignored it. Lily was silent in his arms. She had stopped crying, stopped moving. She was in shock. Stay with me, Lily, Jack said. Stay with me. We're almost there. The extraction point came into view. A clearing at the edge of the colony. Jack could see soldiers there. Humans, survivors. But he could also see Kethari. Hundreds of them. Surrounding the clearing. Getting ready to attack. Oh no, Maria breathed. The radio crackled one more time. This is Delta Command. We are under attack. Air support is not coming. All units, we are on our own. God help us all. Jack looked at Maria, at Lily, at the battle ahead. They had 2 choices. Go forward and fight. Or run. If they fought, they might die. All of them. If they ran, the soldiers at Delta would die without them. But Lily might live. Jack had orders. He had duty. He had sworn an oath to fight alongside his brothers and sisters, but he was holding a child. A child who had no one else. A child who trusted him to keep her safe. The weight of the choice pressed down on him, like a mountain. Maria saw the look in his eyes. Sarge, whatever you decide, I'm with you. Jack looked down at Lily. She looked back at him. Those blue eyes. So young. So innocent. He remembered why he became a soldier. To protect people. To save lives. That was what it was supposed to mean. We run, he said. Maria did not argue. They turned away from Delta. Away from their duty. Away from their fellow soldiers. They ran into the darkness. Behind them, the battle at Delta began. Jack could hear the gunfire. The explosions. The screaming. He did not look back. For 3 more days. Jack and Maria and Lily moved through the ruins of Vega Prime. They hid during the day, moved at night, found food and water where they could. Maria was killed on the second day. A sniper. She died without making a sound. After that, it was just Jack and Lily. Jack told her stories at night. Stories about brave knights and dragons. About princes and princesses. About heroes who always won. He made them up as he went. Anything to keep her calm. Anything to keep her sane. On the third night, surrounded by enemies, out of ammunition and out of hope, Jack made one final choice. He activated his emergency beacon, thought it was against every protocol. It could lead the enemy right to them. But it was also their only chance. 12 hours later, a rescue shuttle found them. A human ship. Survivors from another colony had come looking for their people. Jack and Lily were saved, but as the shuttle lifted off, Jack could see the ruins of Extraction Point Delta far below. He knew the truth. Soldiers had died there. Soldiers who had waited for help that never came, and someone would have to answer for that. The courtroom went quiet. Everyone turned to look at the little girl in the blue dress. She was standing between her parents. Her mother had a hand on her shoulder. Her father was whispering something to her. But Lily was not listening to them. She was looking at Jack. "Lily, honey, sit down," Margaret Brennan said softly. "This isn't the right time." But Lily shook her head. There was something in her eyes. Something that had not been there before. Determination. "I want to say something," she said again. Her voice was small but clear. "I have to." Admiral Monroe had stopped at the door. She turned around. Her eyes moved from the girl to her parents to Jack. "Young lady," the Admiral said, "this is a military proceeding. Children are not permitted to speak." "But I was there," Lily said. "I saw what happened." "Nobody asked me what happened." The room was completely silent now. The journalists had stopped packing up their equipment. The military officers had frozen in their seats. Even Lieutenant Commander Hayes was watching with an unreadable expression. Kevin Brennan stood up. "Your Honor, I apologize. My daughter is still processing what happened. We'll take her outside." "No." Lily pulled away from her mother's hand. "I don't want to go outside. I want to tell them. They have to know." Torres leaned close to Jack. "This could help us," she whispered. "If she testifies..." "She's 7 years old," Jack whispered back. "She shouldn't have to do this." But Lily was already walking forward. Her small shoes clicked on the wooden floor. She walked past the gallery, past the prosecution table, past the defense table. She walked until she stood directly in front of Admiral Monroe. "Please," she said. "Please let me say something." Admiral Monroe looked at the little girl for a long moment. Then she looked at the other members of the tribunal. 2 men and 1 woman. All of them had been soldiers. All of them had seen war. All of them were parents. Something passed between them. A silent agreement. Admiral Monroe walked back to her seat. "Court will remain in session. The tribunal will hear from Lily Brennan." A murmur went through the room. Hayes started to object, but Monroe silenced her with a look. "Miss Brennan, please tell us what you want to say." Lily turned to face the room. She was so small, so young, but she stood straight. She held her stuffed rabbit against her chest like a shield. "I was at the market with my mommy," she began. Her voice shook a little, but she kept going. "We were buying vegetables for dinner. Daddy was at work. It was a normal day." She took a breath. "Then the sky got dark, and there was fire everywhere. Mommy grabbed my hand and she said, 'Run.' So I ran, but there were so many people. Everyone was running. And then I fell down and Mommy's hand was gone. Tears were forming in her eyes, but she did not stop. I looked for her. I called for her. But she was gone. Everything was burning. The bad things were everywhere. The tall ones with the red eyes. I saw them hurt people. I saw them. She could not finish that sentence. She did not need to. Everyone in the room understood. I hid under a table, then in a closet, then in a building that was broken. I hid for a long time. I was so scared. I thought I was going to die. She looked at Jack. Then he found me. Jack felt something break open in his chest. His eyes were burning, but he did not look away. He was a soldier. He had a gun. At first I thought he was going to hurt me too, but he didn't. He put down his gun. He got down on his knees so he could look at me. And he said, "I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to help you." Lily walked toward Jack. She stopped right in front of him. He picked me up. He carried me. For 3 whole days, he carried me. He gave me his water when I was thirsty. He gave me his food when I was hungry. He told me stories when I couldn't sleep. She pointed at the scar on Jack's arm. He got hurt because of me. One of the bad things tried to get me, but he stopped it. He got cut. There was blood everywhere. But he didn't let go of me. He never let go of me. The courtroom was absolutely silent. Some of the people in the gallery were crying. Even some of the soldiers. Lily turned back to face Admiral Monroe. Everyone keeps saying he did something bad. They say he broke the rules. They say people died because of him. Her small voice grew stronger. But I would have died too. If he followed the rules, I would have died. The bad things would have found me. They would have hurt me like they hurt everyone else. She walked toward the Admiral's bench. A guard moved to stop her, but Monroe waved him back. "That man saved my life," Lily said. "He saved me when no one else would. He saved me when he didn't have to. He saved me when it was hard and scary and dangerous." She turned one more time. She pointed at Jack with one small finger. "That's the soldier who saved me." The words echoed in the silent room. Margaret Brennan was sobbing openly. Kevin had his arm around her, tears streaming down his own face. Some of the military officers had bowed their heads. The journalists were writing furiously, but even they seemed moved. Lieutenant Commander Hayes sat frozen at her table. For the first time, there was something other than cold certainty in her eyes. Doubt, perhaps, or something like it. Admiral Monroe looked at Lily for a long, long moment. "Miss Brennan," she said softly, "thank you for your courage." She turned to her colleagues. They spoke in low voices. The conversation lasted only a minute. Then Admiral Monroe faced the court. "This tribunal will take an extended recess. We will reconvene tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock for our decision." She stood. Everyone stood with her. Court is adjourned. The room began to empty, but no one was talking. The silence was heavy, meaningful. Jack had not moved. He was still sitting at the defendant's table. His hands were shaking. Lily walked back to him. She stopped in front of his chair. "Are you okay?" she asked. Jack tried to answer, but his voice would not work. He nodded instead. Lily held out her stuffed rabbit. The one she had been carrying since the day they met. The one that was missing an ear. "This is Mr. Buttons," she said. "He helped me be brave. Maybe he can help you be brave too." She put the rabbit in Jack's hands. Jack looked at the worn toy, then at the little girl who had given it to him. And for the first time in 6 months, he let himself cry. Taurus put a hand on his shoulder. "You need to get some rest," she said gently. "Tomorrow is going to be a long day." Jack nodded. He stood up slowly. His legs felt weak. The Brennan family was waiting by the door. Margaret and Kevin looked at him with something new in their eyes. Gratitude. Respect. "Thank you," Margaret said. "Thank you for saving our daughter." "She saved me first," Jack said. He looked down at Lily. "She just saved me again." Lily smiled. It was the first real smile Jack had seen on her face since Vega Prime. They walked out of the courtroom together. Outside, the sun was setting over the city. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink. It looked like the sunset on Vega Prime, the last peaceful sunset before everything changed. Jack looked up at the sky and wondered what tomorrow would bring. Whatever happened, he knew one thing for certain. He would not change what he did. Not for anything. Because some things were worth more than orders. Some things were worth more than duty. Some things were worth everything. And the life of one small girl was one of those things. 6 months passed. The war continued. The Cathari pushed deeper into human territory. More colonies fell. More people died. But slowly, the human forces were pushing back. There was talk of a turning point. Talk of hope. Jack Holloway did not feel hope. He stood in a small gray room in the military headquarters on Earth. He wore his dress uniform. The medals on his chest felt like weights. His arm had healed, but the scar remained. It would always remain. A guard stood at the door. 2 more stood outside. Jack was not exactly a prisoner, but he was not free either. The door opened. A woman in a captain's uniform walked in. She was young, maybe 30. Dark hair pulled back tight. Sharp eyes behind simple glasses. Sergeant Holloway. I'm Captain Daniel Torres. I've been assigned as your defense counsel. Jack looked at her. Defense counsel? So it's really happening. The court-martial begins tomorrow. The charges are serious. She sat down across from him and opened a folder. Jack could see papers inside. Reports, photographs, a list of names. Abandonment of post, she read. Failure to follow direct orders. Reckless endangerment of military personnel. Conduct unbecoming a soldier. She looked up at him. These are career-ending charges, Sergeant. Some of them carry prison time. I know what I did. Tell me anyway. In your own words. Jack was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. He told her everything. The attack. Finding Lily. The choice to leave Delta. Danny's death. Maria's death. The 3 days of hiding. The beacon. When he finished, Captain Torres was silent. You saved a child's life, she finally said. And 8 soldiers died at Delta. You don't know that. You don't know what would have happened if you had been there. No, I don't. But the prosecution will say it doesn't matter. Orders are orders. I broke them. Torres closed her folder. Sergeant, I've read your file. 15 years of perfect service. 6 combat deployments. 3 commendations for bravery. You're not a coward. You're not a deserter. Anyone can see that. The tribunal might not see it that way. That's why we fight. That's why we make them see. Jack looked at her. He saw something in her eyes. Not just duty. Something more. Why do you care? He asked. Torres was quiet for a moment. I had a brother. He was a Marine, like you. He died on Proxima 7. The official report said he abandoned his squad during an ambush. That he ran. Did he? No. He went back for wounded civilians. He died protecting them. But the report didn't mention that. The report just said he broke orders. Her voice was hard now. Angry. He deserved better. And so do you. Jack did not know what to say. So he said nothing. Torres stood up. Tomorrow you tell your story. You tell the truth. Let me worry about the rest. She left. The guards took Jack back to his quarters. He lay on his bed and stared at the ceiling. 8 soldiers. 8 names. 8 families that would never see their loved ones again. Jack knew their names by heart. He had memorized them. He would carry them forever. But he also remembered Lily's face. Her blue eyes. Her small hand in his dot, was it worth it? Was one child's life worth the lives of 8 soldiers? He did not know. He might never know. Sleep did not come easy that night. The court-martial was held in the Grand Military Hall on Earth. It was a large room with high ceilings and old wooden walls. Flags of every human colony hung from the rafters. The room was built to feel important. To feel final. Jack sat at the defendant's table. Captain Torres sat beside him. The prosecution team sat across the aisle. Lieutenant Commander Patricia Hayes led them. She was an older woman with gray hair and cold eyes. She had never lost a case. The gallery was packed. Military officers in their dress uniforms. Journalists with their cameras and recorders. Families of the soldiers who had died at Delta. They looked at Jack with anger, with grief, with hatred. And in the back row, sitting very quietly, was a man and a woman and a little girl. Kevin and Margaret Brennan, Lily's parents. They had been found 3 weeks after the attack. They had hidden in an underground bunker. They had survived, and they had brought Lily to the trial. The girl looked different, now, healthier. Her blonde hair was clean and brushed. She was wearing a blue dress, but her eyes were the same, big, blue, haunted. She was still holding her stuffed rabbit. Jack looked at her. Just for a moment. She looked back. He thought he saw something in her eyes. Recognition. Trust. Then the trial began. The presiding judge was Admiral Catherine Monroe. She was tall and stern with silver hair and a face that showed nothing. She had been a soldier for 40 years. She had seen everything. She feared nothing. "This tribunal is now in session," she said. "Sergeant First Class Jack Holloway, you are charged with abandonment of post, failure to follow direct orders, reckless endangerment of military personnel, and conduct unbecoming. How do you plead?" Jack stood. His legs felt weak, but his voice was steady. "Not guilty, Your Honor." The prosecution presented its case first. Lieutenant Commander Hayes was thorough. She was brutal. She called witnesses. Officers who had been at Delta. Soldiers who had waited for backup that never came. 8 men and women died at Extraction Point Delta, Hayes said. 8 soldiers who believed that help was coming. Help that Sergeant Holloway was supposed to provide. She showed photographs. The faces of the dead. Their service records. Their families. Private First Class Jamie Collins, age 21. She had a daughter back home. That daughter will grow up without a mother. Corporal Steve Patterson, age 24. He was engaged to be married. His fiancée received his dog tags instead of a wedding ring. Sergeant Lisa Tran, age 30. She was a medic. She died trying to save others while the man who should have been there was hiding in the ruins with a child. Each name was like a knife. Jack sat still. He did not react. But inside, something was breaking. The prosecution rested. Captain Torres presented the defense. She called witnesses too. Survivors from Vega Prime who had seen the chaos. Officers who explained how communications had failed. Experts who talked about the fog of war. She called Jack to the stand. "Sergeant Holloway, tell us what happened when you found Lily Brennan." Jack told the story. The same story he had told Torres. He tried to keep his voice flat, professional, but some of the words came out, broken. He talked about finding her in the classroom. About the fear in her eyes. About her small hand reaching for his. "I couldn't leave her," he said. She was alone. She was scared. She was just a kid. "And you made a choice to protect her." "Yes." "Even though it meant leaving your post." "Yes." "Even though it meant breaking orders." "Yes." Hayes stood up for cross-examination. Her eyes were sharp. "Sergeant Holloway, you were a soldier for 15 years." "Yes." "Ma'am, You understood the importance of following orders. Yes, yes. You knew that abandoning your post could cost lives. Yes, yes. And yet, you did it anyway. Jack was silent for a moment. I did what I thought was right. Hayes smiled. It was not a kind smile. What you thought was right. Not what your training told you. Not what your orders told you. Not what your duty told you. What you thought was right. Yes. Then let me ask you this, Sergeant. If you had gone to Delta, if you had been there with your weapon and your training and your experience, do you think those 8 soldiers might still be alive? Jack felt the weight of the question. The weight of the truth. I don't know. You don't know. But it's possible. It's possible that your choice killed 8 people. Torres jumped up. Objection. Speculation. Withdrawn, Hayes said. But the damage was done. The trial continued for 3 more days. Witnesses, evidence, arguments. On the 4th day, Admiral Monroe called for closing statements. Hayes went first. She was powerful, convincing. This case is not complicated, she said. A soldier broke his orders. People died. That is the simple truth. Whatever his reasons, whatever his intentions, he failed in his duty. And if we let that go unpunished, what message do we send? That orders don't matter? That soldiers can do whatever they want as long as they feel good about it? That is not justice. That is chaos. Torres gave her closing next. Sergeant Holloway made a choice. A hard choice. An impossible choice. He chose to save a child's life. Is that a crime? Is that something we punish? We send our soldiers into war, and we tell them to fight. But we also tell them why we fight. We fight to protect people. We fight to save lives. That is what Jack Holloway did. He saved a life. And I believe, with all my heart, that is exactly what a soldier is supposed to do. Admiral Monroe nodded. We will take a brief recess before deliberation. Court will reconvene in 1 hour. The room began to empty. Jack sat still. Torres put a hand on his shoulder. You did well, she said. Jack did not feel like he had done well. He felt tired. Empty. Then he heard a small voice. Mommy, can I say something? Jack turned. In the back of the room, Lily Brennan was standing up.